What happened after all these drugs issues? What happened in that moment? Or in that?
There was a long period of time that I struggled with all of this. Made a lot of poor choices. Made some mistakes, and unfortunately,
Which kind of mistakes?
DUIs. I had an issue not too long ago, about 2 years ago, where I had been talking with somebody on Instagram that later turned out to be underage. I didn't know that what I was getting myself into, and there were charges brought against me because this person had claimed that I had done all of these horrible things physically and was sending inappropriate pictures and all of these types of things. And so I was investigated for about 18 months. They took my phone and my computers and subpoenaed all of my social media and everything, and to which they found that none of that had occurred. But because I had been talking in a way that I shouldn't have been before the age had come to light, they were able to bring charges against me. And then they made a statement in court and said that I'd done all of these things, and the media picked that up and ran articles saying that this is what I pled guilty to and this is what I did, and the entire world thought that I was some monster, which was really hard for me because I was being called by the entire internet and media what Brian is, And so I was going, wait a minute, no, this isn't me. This is this is my abuser. And
in that moment, the world doesn't know about Brian.
No.
And all this stuff.
No, the world had no idea. And so I was the media reported, the New York Times reported that I was a registered sex offender and that I had pled guilty to sexual assault, but none of which was true. I pled guilty to these messages, these conversations, and nothing physical. And it was even brought up in the trial, and that this is not what this case is about. It's not a sexual assault case. He's not pleading guilty to anything physical or anything. It's so dirty to say, but anything sexual. And but the media only took the first half of my trial and put that all over the news because that was more salacious and was going to get more attention. And I had media outlets like the New York Times saying, which they just yesterday printed a retraction to that article. But
this is very important.
But who reads the retractions?
Well,
it's important for me, and it's important for the world to see that, because if the New York Times reports it, well, it's got to be a fact. They do their research, and it's got to be a fact. And so that was another traumatic experience where
sorry, at the end you were completely innocent. No, the court said about that or not?
About what I was accused of, yes. But because I had engaged in certain conversations, that was what they were able to charge me with. So I ended up getting charged and doing a year of 200 hours of community service and 2 years of probation. But what the internet was reporting and what the media was reporting was a far cry from the reality of my situation. And so it was just unbelievable. And unlike the case with Brian, that got no media coverage whatsoever, this was everywhere, and everyone was, he's a monster, he's a word I don't even want to say, he's a predator, and I mean, up until even now, was majorly canceled. And luckily, I had, in 2008, I came out and I played a concert out here in Auditorio Nacional. And the reception for my music was so incredible, like nowhere else I'd ever played in the world. And so I was like, what's going on in Mexico and Latin America with my music? They're embracing it so much. Like, I want to go play. I want to be there. I want to be where my fans love my music, not just the show, not just my acting, but music is my passion. And so I want to be there. And so I started to really cultivate that relationship and coming down here more and playing here more. And luckily, even though it was a huge story here and I did get canceled and all of that, the media did much more research on my case. They looked into it more and were able to come to the conclusion and see the reality of what had happened. And so out here, I was able to kind of get my life back and get things going again, because the media didn't treat me, or not me, but, well, yes, me, but treat my situation like the media in the States, in the US. And I was able to get the truth of what had happened out here a lot easier than what had happened in the States. So I started spending much more time out here. I was able to make music again, and I was able to do this. And then the media in the US used that against me and said, oh, Drake Bell escaped to Mexico because he's escaping the media, or he's escaping his problems and his legal issues in the US, and he went down to Mexico to escape. And then the media would say things about Mexico like, oh, he's going to be safe down there because Mexico accepts people like that. I mean, saying things about Mexico and about Latin America that were just, I mean, unbelievable. I mean, no, if you come here and if my situation was how the media was portraying it in the US, I would not be accepted in Mexico. They would be like, no, sorry, like, no, like, this is not okay.
Yes, it's the same.
It's the same. But the way the media was portraying it was I was finding a safe haven out here because I was being, just horrible things about here. And that, it just was piling on and piling on and piling on. And I finally had a breaking point, and I started to spiral. And my mental state was just completely unhealthy.